intuition. And I've even seen people use like the tarot cards or the oracle cards or things like that they're very specifically open, and it can be open to interpretation. People, if they're so attached to one outcome, they'll go, see, it's set, It's like, well, let's try to tap into your intuition and see, how does your body respond? Sometimes I'll have people imagine two outcomes. Like, okay, let's imagine you go on the trip to Italy and you leave your kids and you go over there. And how do you feel when you just imagine being and doing all those things, and see how you feel? And then let's imagine now you stay and you don't go and you da-da-da, and then imagine all those things that would happen, and how do you feel? And then there's your intuition telling you right there, because of the way you respond to imagining. Our body does respond to imagination just as if you're doing it. So you can imagine and notice the body's response, and that's a way to tap also into your intuition, instead of asking yes or no from the pendulum,
Yeah. And don't you feel like the imagination is such an important part of inner child that we as a society need to honor again? Because it's, whether it's just like being a child and you're imagining your favorite gift you want for Christmas, to like when I look at a shamanic approach, so much of the shamanic healing is about accessing our imagination and letting those guides show up in whatever way they want to. Yes. And it's so, I see so many in society that kind of look down at it, like, oh, you're just airy-fairy and you're out there. But I feel like it's so an important aspect of helping us to feel what we want to create out here in this physical realm, and that ethereal, realm where in our imagination, it's really giving us guidance, like you're saying, where we can kind of feel, if I go this direction or if I go that direction, what does it feel like in my imagination? I feel like that's so important, and it's honoring our inner child to let him or her play in imagination.
Yes, and let them be a part of our life now. Sometimes, as you were speaking earlier about working with that inner child, sometimes people don't realize, like they'll say, like, well, a lot of things happened when I was a kid, and I don't want to go there, or even anything, a child, teenager, young adult, whatever. I don't want to go there. I don't want to think about it. And the thing is by going there and being with that part and allowing that part to express that it was hurt or whatever, allowing a healing to occur, and we can use communicating with those parts of ourselves in our imagination and representative in our life, and that's a way to heal. That's a way to heal those parts. Just stuffing it doesn't heal it. That's when you start to get things in your body, is I stuff this or that, or emotions will become chronic. You can have chronic emotions. You're always angry, and it's not that you're angry because somebody cut you off at the street light,
You got that kind of anger.
Right. If it's a huge, you want to run the person over, there's something else there. you know. Yeah. It might be a little angry about them cutting you off, but if you want to hunt them down and find out where they live and stuff like that, there's something else there.
Absolutely. Well, yeah, and I feel like so much of healing that, because back to the point of this whole book and your show and this connection, is that really it's important that we honor that voice now, and that we honor whatever's going on. Like you said, people like, I don't want to go back there, or people that tell me I don't even remember my childhood, which is always kind of a red flag to me when they can't remember. I'm like, ooh. And so it shows like how skilled our mind can be at just like locking things away, because, we kind of create that. We don't want to deal with it. So we'll tuck it away. But it's tucked away somewhere, and it's still like the baby. We tucked that baby away somewhere. I loved how in your book you described it as being like your child self was frozen, and she just felt frozen inside of you, and she didn't feel safe. And that was very much how my inner child was when I first connected with her, was like, I don't trust anybody. Like, she was kind of like, wah, like hands up and everyone stay away from me. And she had good reason to be,
Yes.
But as I could tune in and honor how she felt and like help her realize it's okay and I love you and we're safe now and I am so sorry you went through those things. Like you should never have had to go through that. And it's just like honoring that child part that just needs to, and you know, the importance, how you and I are at a place where we are today where we can help others is because we were vulnerable enough to go there. Yes. And if we didn't go there, what I've seen in humans that mirror the other path that we could also take is they become, you know, really rageful, hormonal imbalance, like bipolar, all these things we label. I feel all it is wounded inner child that has not been dealt with. And it starts to create all these things that we give labels and tricky little, you know, titles, and then we make medicines for them. But really, it's like the power is tuning into it now, like go
Yes.
there. It's so important that we each go there.
That we do go there. And it many times with people with the inner child work, what you said is, I think, the most important line of all is that you didn't do anything wrong.
Yes.
And that's not happening now. That's not happening now.
Yes.
So many people, they don't want to go back there, so they leave the inner child. But when we go back to the child and say, look how my life is now, that's not happening now. What happened then is not happening now. Come into my life now. Come into my life now. Let me take care of you now. Let me show you it's safe. Let's have fun together. You know, let's learn and grow together. And if someone is watching this and is in a situation where whatever is happening still, it is the time to, if you're hearing this, it's the time to change.
Yes.
And to find help to get out of that situation so that you can save yourself. You can save yourself. And there are people who can help you. And that's what we're here for.
Absolutely. From the heart. That's what, like, we're here on this planet in a bigger way than maybe we knew for that, you know? Yeah. And really, when we do that, you know, make that choice to invite the child to be one. And it's, I feel like you described it really well in the book. And it's something that I went through in my own journey where you have to be patient with that child part too, when you start tuning into her, him or her, because in the beginning, she didn't trust me. And she's like, why should I even trust you? You leave me. Like, you don't honor me. You do whatever they want. And I was like, oh, crap. You're so right about that. And so it's like, it can be emotional. I mean, I think there was times I sobbed like a baby. Like, I literally called it rebirthing myself, where I went through to the level of even remembering being in the fetus and my mother not wanting me and like what she was going through and her anxiety and how much I, as a soul, took that into my own energy field.
Yes. And
how much that can affect us, where we have these bright, brilliant souls that are capable of so much. We're infinitely, you know, beautiful and abundant, and we're unlimited. But then we go to these different human experiences and we take on some of that cellular memory of mother, father, societal, you know, conditioning of the community. And then we think that's who we are. And we start to feel very small and like frozen and limited. And I feel like it's so important to start tuning in again, wherever each of you that are watching are at in your journey. Even if we feel like we're really aware beings, it would never hurt to tune in and talk to your child. Like, just to start creating a dialogue with inner child and also higher self. I feel like the two energies, there's the nurturing higher self, like what you call the guru, which I love, and then the inner child self, that the two of them, they really want to work together to help us have the most beautiful life that we could possibly have. And we have to start to honor them. Otherwise, we stay feeling small and broken and like we're afraid of everything. Would you say that's true?
I do. I think it's so true. And the first step is awareness. For each person to realize, what are you feeling emotionally, mentally, physically. And in feeling that, to start to pay attention. And sometimes people even say, I don't have time for that. Well, I always tell people, the first time is maybe when you first go to bed and you're just before you go to sleep and you're kind of laying there, just scan your body, check out what happened today, how are you feeling about it, and start there. And when you start with those first 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes, some people I say, oh my God, I go to sleep in a minute. Well, try to spend 2 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And then as you realize the benefits of it and how it's changing, then you might want to spend a couple more minutes and then a few more minutes, and really taking the time to see where do you need to go. If you're going too deep into the pain and the suffering, perhaps it's time to check in the other way. Just as Tanya is saying, to check with that higher self. What do you know now that you could share with your child?
Yes.
That you teach her. What do you want to know that you can call and ask your soul a question? So kind of, but it's not, waiting until you're exhausted and drinking or smoking or whatever it is, and then falling into bed in a coma and getting up and doing the same thing all over again. You don't get anywhere.
That's so sad to me. Like in The Peaceful Warrior, he said, he's like, death is not really a big deal. When he's describing, he's like, it's no big deal. He's like, what's sad is that so many never live. And I was like, that is so truthful. Like, what makes me like move to tears so much in life is when I see humans that are hurting so deeply and they're so numb. And one thing that we've learned as healers, probably, right, Toni, is that we cannot save them all. And we're not here to do that. But I feel like when I just observe it, I just want so much for every soul to thrive and to find that spark inside again and to feel safe, because whenever I see angry, hateful human, I know deep inside they're at war with self and they're not loving their child. And it's very simple. So, when we each are dealing with people in our movies, in our worlds, just remember that. Don't try your best not to take it personally. And I mean, that's something, even as when we're children, if we've been abused, that can be tricky not to take that personally. But we really learn through wisdom that it wasn't anything about us. It was really something that human was going through, and we had stuff to learn from that journey as well. Yes. But we can each be more, more loving in our lives. I feel like so many of us are going through battles we have no clue about. And it's just so simple, but just be kind to people. Be kind to each other. And be kind to yourself.
Yeah, be kind to yourself.
Yeah, if we're not loving ourselves.
That's the last thing on people's list. It's so funny. And, to help people to realize that a lot of times what people are saying to themselves in their head, which is what I was doing, I would never say to anyone the hurtful things that I was saying to myself. And when I didn't even hear it. And then when I realized that was happening inside my head, I was like, oh my God, that's not very nice. And I started, developing the other voice that finally turned into saying, I love you. Even when I make a mistake, I love you. You're learning it. I forgive you, and we need to learn to do that for ourselves, and really give ourselves some credit, for all we've been through and all we're trying to learn here on this life and taking on to the other lives. It's such a journey. It's such a privilege that we're a gift, and I try to also help people see that there never will be another me, and there never will be another you, and that we each have value. And that was one of the chapters of the book about seeing your own value, because
I love that chapter.
when you see your own value, you can show up and be all your creative, imaginative, wonderful self, and we want to see that.
Yes. And I think it's so important, like that self-love aspect is starting with self. Care about what you're feeling, care about what feels good to you. That's that first step to healing our inner child that's been very much trained not to care about what we feel. And
Right.
let's all start with that. Like, even just, I love just making it in small baby steps, but just for today or this week, if each of you watching just make